Morning. It's 10 o'clock, so we'll open up the Community and Services meeting for today. For those who don't know, my name is Councillor Ferg. Very good morning to our General Manager of Community and Services, Ken Bailey, on my right, and also to our councillors present at the table, Cody Tucker, Lisa Guy, Barry Bruce and Matt Wong, Governance Advisor John Winterbottom on my left, Esther Whitehead, councillor, joining us online. Nice to see you again, Esther, and good to know that things have gone well for you. Very good morning to staff, members of the public, and to media who might be tuned in. It's nice to have you taking an interest in what is probably a full meeting for us. Starting, of course, when we get to it with the public forum. So it's a bit of a full schedule today, so we're going to try and run a tight ship. So we've got some more work to do at the conclusion of this meeting. First off, of course, on the agenda, apologies, leave of absence. No apologies, no leave of absence. So we'll move on to the next item. Declarations of conflict of interest. Any declarations of conflict of interest? No. Matters lying on the table. There are no matters lying on the table this morning. Over the page we go. As we mentioned, we've got a pretty full schedule today. So we head to the public forum where we've had 4 expressions of interest to come and speak. So just to remind those who are speaking in the public forum today, it's 3 minutes. John will put the timer on you. We'll try and be a little bit flexible, but as I mentioned, we've got a full schedule in front of councillors today. So if there's a need to give you an extra 30 seconds, well, I'll see how I'm feeling. But first up, Fraser Gordon from the Queenstown Mountain Bike Club. Nice to see you again, Fraser. Thanks.
Hey guys.
Thanks for making the effort.
Morning. Thank you. Just speaking briefly on the proposal for Coronet Forest and what's happening over there. There's been quite a bit of work in the background with that planning. Queenstown Mountain Bike Club is in full support of developing that area in a collaborative way with other user groups around town, around the basin, and also in a sustainable way as well. We understand fully it's a pretty awesome resource out there, with it being a public land that can really benefit that part of the community, particularly that area in the mountain biking space. It's quite a huge population base out there with out of town location. It doesn't have a lot of trails out there, so it is a great location. We are keen to work with all the other user groups up there, including hikers, horse riders, anyone else that sees the benefit of that area to put it in place, and obviously also the local iwi and reforestation plan out there to fence it for trapping. I think it's got huge potential for what we need. We're in support of the funding that can come, but also understand that the maintenance of the area is critical in making sure that that area is managed in a sustainable way. So yeah, we hope that council looks favourably on that proposal, and we can look forward to creating an amazing community asset out there.
Great. Thank you, Fraser. Keep up the good work. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Harding-Shaw from the Arrowtown Village Association. Thanks for making the effort, Dave.
That's right. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm also here on behalf of the Arrowtown Village Association to support the Coronet Forest area and I guess opportunity. And I'm just going to speak on that a little bit now. So the vision initially for the recreation area was to cater for a wide range of the community. And that vision was created by the Wakatipu Riding Club, the Tramping Club, a couple of walking groups, the Mountain Bike Club, Paragliding Club, and passionate members around the Arrowtown community who are involved in one or more of those activities. In short, we see that as an area to go walking for families with kids of varying ages. There's a chance for some education on flora and fauna by way of signage and examples out there. An introduction to a poled backcountry style tracks across the top of the ridgeline, which are not currently available. Space for horse riders to enjoy their hobby, which is, they have limited other options around the region. Options to allow progression and learning for paragliders. And then a range of mountain bike tracks that are not currently available on the eastern side of the basin, which is where, there's a large chunk of the population out there. And Fraser mentioned, Arrowtown and Lake Hayes, but you also have to look out to Jack's Point, Hanley's Farm, the growth that's going out around there, shot over the country. There's a large area of population that don't have a lot of tracks available to them. You know, we can also cater, the idea is to cater for families with younger kids wanting to get into ride, those just getting into the sport. Those who prefer a more cross-country based pedaling approach as opposed to gravity-fed options. You know, that we see those tracks as acting as a bridge between the entry level and easy Queenstown Trail, and the more technically advanced tracks with steeper climbs like around Fern Hill and 7 Mile. It's a more complete offering for locals and visitors to the region. And I mean, from a personal basis, this is exactly what I looked for when we were learning to ride with my son. And we didn't have anything in that space, and I'd like to be able to hopefully help make that change. We also have options for new and different events. You know, why not an off-road version of the Queenstown Marathon? Why not 6, 12 or 24-hour relay races like what are done in the North Island, particularly in Taupo and Rotorua? We don't have the facilities to do those sorts of things at the moment. We have an opportunity to put a plan in place now which will save money in the future by preventing rework and replanting of the trees that have been about to be replanted while creating an amazing experience for our community. Our expectation is that the build and maintenance will be funded and led by the community. This will require minimal funding from council, most likely in time from the existing staff. And as mentioned in the report that's been given to you guys, there are potential areas such as toilets and parking for potential future consideration. But again, those are all things the community can be involved in. There are private funds verbally committed towards the build and maintenance. And there are also 20 other odd trusts and organisations that I'm aware of currently that we could apply for funding. Now, I do need to emphasise that there has always been an expectation that the community will help to build and maintain those tracks. We really do see this as a community-driven area. Now, I understand council's hesitation at committing funding, and as a ratepayer, I believe that's prudent. At this stage, council aren't being asked for funding. They're being asked to accept the provision for the tracks and the plan, put a plan in place, and make sure that those are done in and around the planting so that we can save time, effort and cost by not having to remove and replant at a later date.
Just ask you to wind up.
That make-
Have you done?
Yep.
Perfect.
Was that about right? Will they bang on 3 minutes?
Give me the tab. Well done, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kate Piravano from the Wakatipu Riding Club. Morning, Kate. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. For having us. This is Kay and our chairperson of the club.
Cool.
Good morning, Kate.
Morning.
Morning. Obviously, we're in total support for the Coronet Forestry being up and running again. We have had, that was our last bastion of pretty much horse-only area, a large area that we could ride, and we miss it dreadfully at the moment. So we're looking at hoping to gain early access prior to being opened up fully for the community. We're affiliated to Bridleways and NZEN, which is New Zealand Equestrian Advocacy Network, because nationally communities, horse riding communities are advocating for these types of spaces to open up with 80,000 sport horses throughout New Zealand. So we are a minority group in Queenstown, and mountain biking seems to be the thing that takes over. Just looking at the terms of reference for the community services group that mentions about community development for bridleways and also getting those recommendations adopted. So we're hoping that this will pan out for us in lots of areas around Queenstown. So we just feel that there should be priority given to the horses in this area as much as possible. And another reason is that it promotes a lower carbon transport system, because horse riders have that resources close to home rather than having to travel to other places. We try and communicate with other groups such as the Trails Trust about including us in their future planning for other trails, but they sort of seem to be falling on deaf ears there. But so our objective here today is to gain early access back to the forestry block prior to being opened for walkers and bikers, so trails can then be embedded, because we actually don't need a lot of maintenance for horse trails. As far as cost goes, Kay can attest to this, that horse riding trails are more single track stuff, and horses graze on the sides. So as far as grasses and things, they usually get eaten down pretty quickly when you stop. And we also we want, you know, we're hoping to have a decent large area for horses to exercise locally because there's very little large areas. To ensure horses are well catered for in the Coronet Forestry is a world-class destination for riders, as much like being offered for bikers and walkers right around the region and various locations.
And basically, there's nowhere else for us.
Yeah.
There's nothing else provided for horse riders anywhere.
There's a lack of inclusiveness as far as
Yeah.
even consulting with us about the expertise of what horses need. And nationally and internationally, multi-use trails are very popular and work really well with other users. So there's, you know, no conflicts as far as that goes, and even the actual surfaces of trails cope well with both tyres and bikes and all the rest of it. So,
Yeah, we can give evidence from Capital Council that horses
Yeah.
do not damage the tracks.
but as far as Coronet goes, it's more single track options that would.
I'm getting the tap on the left.
Oh, we're done.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Just, I'll give you 10 to wrap up if you want it. A quick 10.
You know, we're really looking forward to getting back up into the forestry block. It's a great fitness for horse riders, and yeah, the sooner we can get up there, the better.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Annie Ford from Canoeing Ride and Conservation. Whatever, Annie, thank you for taking the time.
Whatever. Thank you for hearing me out. My name is Annie Ford. I'm with Tahuna Ride and Conservation. TRAC see this as an opportunity to deliver an exemplar project of both regional and national significance, whose outcomes and deliverables set a standard for which other projects will strive to achieve. It shows what iwi, council, community groups, recreational users can accomplish when we come together. Tracks and trails are fundamental to education, to experience, and to restoration activities. Walkways, biking tracks, horse trekking, and picnic areas will promote sustainable use of this region that was formerly degraded. There are both logistical and temporal benefits of completing both the planting and trail building in tandem. And most importantly, TRAC are committed to funding 50% of this trail network. Not only 50% of the establishment of this trail network proposed, but 100% of ongoing maintenance for up to 5 years. Thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you for yours.
Yes. Right, that's brings to a close the public forum. Thank you for those, as I mentioned, who've taken the time to speak to us this morning. Just need confirmation of the agenda. Resolution required that the agenda be confirmed without addition or alteration. Have a mover. Councillor Wong, seconder. Councillor Guy, in favour.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Community and Services Committee on the 8th of August, and that the minutes of that meeting be confirmed as a true and correct record. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tucker, seconder. Councillor Whitehead, in favour.
Aye.
Carries. Rightio. Just before we get on to the agenda, I'm always conscious that the first name or the first word in our title is community. So we know that the last time, the committee members know that the last time we were here was a bit of an emotional time for our General Manager, Ken Bailey. So Ken, on behalf of the committee, we pass on our deepest sympathies to you and your family. We know that you've had 2 passings, and if you can pass that on to your wife, Robin, we greatly appreciate it, mate.
Thank you.
Go well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, to agenda item number 1, which of course is the Queenstown Lakes District Welcoming Plan. And for the committee, our job, note the contents of this report. Adopt the Queenstown Lakes District Welcoming Plan 2024-27, and 3, agree the Queenstown Lakes District Welcoming Plan 2024-2027, which will go into effect on the 24th of September. Morning, staff.
Morning.
Big smiles on your faces. As always, councillors. As always, councillors, address through the chair, please. And of course, over to staff to have any comments to add to the report before questions, if there are any from the councillors.
Kia ora koutou, councillors. Thank you so much for having us here today. This for me is a day that's 3 years in the making, and for Sylvia. So we're really pleased and proud to be here today to present the inaugural welcoming plan for Queenstown Lakes District. Yeah, it's a beautiful document. Our comms team have done an amazing job working with us on this. But I just really wanted to take a moment before we take any questions, just to acknowledge the really hard work of Sylvia in particular, but also our colleague Hemi, who couldn't be here today. Really, the foundation of this plan is all of the engagement and conversations and support Sylvia in particular has done for our new migrant communities, the newcomers that come in to live in this amazing district. She's really set the tone for this work and really has established a really strong network which we can all tap into when we need to and connect with. So this plan really is a reflection of that hard work. The plan is built on the contribution of our advisory groups who are really pivotal in helping us shape this plan, and also just a wide range of community members that came to the many different hui and opportunities we had to talk about really what it is that makes our place really welcoming for anyone new that comes to live here. This is about inclusion. It's about making sure that everyone that comes here feels welcome. So yeah, just wanted to say how proud I am of the work and open to hear your questions, and just wanted to give Sylvia an opportunity to also make say a few words about the work.
Oh, I'm just going to, thank you a lot for the councillors to be part of this 3-year in the making. You've heard us, you saw how we built it and how we increased our visibility and our connections. And I'll just thank you very much. We're happy to take your questions.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Whitehead.
Oh, kia ora. It's not actually a question, but I just wanted to thank you both and acknowledge the mahi that's happened over the course of the last few years. And also to say that the hui have been incredibly powerful and invaluable, I think, to progress this forward. So the stakeholder engagement's been massive, and it's a challenging one because we don't have a national kind of emphasis on this in terms of a national strategy. So it does mean that communities have to take an ad hoc approach, and our community and the work of our council has just been amazing, I think, as a leader in this space, actually. So yeah, thank you very much, staff.
Thank you. Councillor Wong.
Thank you, through the chair. Just wondering with the political winds that keep on blowing in different directions, the 9,500 that was committed for establishing this program, that is still going to be a one-off, or have Immigration New Zealand not indicated anymore?
No, correct. It is part of the accreditation model. They are keeping the amount that you receive, which is the 9,500. Is that the way you?
Yes.
Yeah, to become an established community, and they will be working on it in November to submit all the paperwork. November of this year, as soon as the welcoming plan is adopted, is one of the criteria, and then we can submit to become an established community, and then we will receive the 9,500. It hasn't been disestablished. Correct. I've questioned that.
Yeah, that was the other question: has it been taken away?
No, it hasn't been taken away at all.
It's only a small amount, but
it is a small amount, so they kept the same advantages, if you want to say. So they haven't changed that, and that has been confirmed recently. They are reviewing the accreditation model to make it a bit more simpler and not provide too many pieces of evidence. Instead of providing, I don't know, 60 pieces, where they're narrowing down the process, and they're working with Think Place in Wellington. So, but the amount is retained. Thank you for asking.
Can I ask a second question?
Absolutely.
More so than the funding, is the political support and will still there from this current government?
Yeah, okay, that by December of this year, maybe you remember that Allen and Clark was commissioned by them to present a 4-year evaluation. And that report, national evaluation of the welcoming communities across the Motu, and that report will be ready for the ministry and the Associate Ministry of Immigration in December. And that's what we've been hearing at the HUI, the National HUI, and Councillor Whitehair was also present. That report will allow the Ministry for Immigration, Associate Ministry, to decide and see the benefits of this program and maybe take action of how they want to move this program further and how they want to connect it with the migrant migrants resettlement strategy that the government has developed. They have a refugee resettlement strategy. They also have a migrant resettlement strategy and develop some of the key indicators connected to the welcoming communities. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah.
Add to that?
Push it.
Just acknowledging your question, and I think part of what we've indicated in this work is our need to continue to advocate, particularly, and so that is an opportunity, as Sylvia pointed out, for us as a council to advocate when there's opportunities to engage with the Minister for Immigration. This will continue to be something that will be important because we have regularly asked at a national level what that national support looks like for a program like this, not necessarily even just financially, but structurally. So we will continue to do that as part of this work.
Thank you.
Chair, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Just coming back to your point, Councillor, and adding Marie and Sylvia, one of the things this program has offered is stability. That this organisation committed right from the outset to have full-time staff, not just a fixed term. And just with some of the points that you're picking up about the national settings, what that looks like is a reflection back into this community that we've created quite the network, which is just going to be stopped at a certain point in time. And if you look at the high growth that this district is now probably #1, and how much the world is coming to be in this world-class setting, these sorts of initiatives that have been led through that continuity, even with some of the changes at a government setting, certainly are providing some of the confidence around people moving into the district and connecting in through these channels.
Yeah, based on that, the accreditation process, I think there's 4 steps in the accreditation process. So that sort of just drives you to want to go further and further with that.
Again, through you, Chair, it drives, but it also just that continuity, even the fact that we've just, we've been fortunate to have Silver at the helm alongside Marie, continuously see this evolve. And if you've had the experience being on one of those hillies, that is really starting to weave together quite a wealth and health of a growing community. And you're always only ever going to be as good as you're vulnerable in the community. And if you look at the power of what we have been able to achieve in that space and how we're now starting to see it result in placement of workforce, connection into community, whether it's your religious ethnic or you want to become an All Black supporter, we're certainly providing some of those pathways through this continuity. The challenge, of course, will be maintaining that within the national settings, but momentum's a massive part when you've got that much growth, right? And actually you as an elected official, this committee has been very supportive in this space along this pathway.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Councillor Guy.
Thank you, through the chair. I actually have a question for everyone in the room, and that is, can you raise your hand if you were born here?
Where? In Queenstown or in
Born at the Queenstown Lakes?
Oh, no.
Yeah, clear. Yeah.
Don't single out.
Thanks for sharing that, and that to me really signifies the importance of this plan for our communities, and I've always sort of been blessed enough to be able to live here and stay here. It's a bit like layers of the onion, and you just get comfortable with where you're at, and something rips off the next layer and makes you cry again. You might have your friend group move away, or you're set to be hit by an unexpected challenge in our community, and what I think, the Manaaki taka and Kaitiaki taka that's come through this plan, we all become each other's family, our whānau, and that social cohesion through this plan has, when I look at the action steps, I can see the next steps for me personally and for all of us, but a question perhaps just to finish up, if I might share on one of those for both Sylvia and Marie. What was the really significant learning, that one bit that you probably went, I didn't really have the same understanding of that before venturing into this work, because you hold it most closely. What do we need to really hear out of this? Yeah.
The significant learning for us was just discovering who is our community, who is part of the ethnic community and the migrant communities. But the other thing is creating a unifying approach to it and a unifying framework. I think that's the biggest learning, that we didn't have this before. So for a city and a district that is depending and relying on so many international foreign nationals coming to live here, you know, with whatever, and not having a unifying framework to support them and to coordinate a settlement and integration to make sure that they are welcome, but they stay here. That is probably the biggest learning that this program has taught us, and that we'll be able to deliver. In the next 3 years, you will see more and more tangible actions of the benefits of a unified approach.
Yeah, and following on from that, for me, it's there's probably a couple of things. The unified approach that Sylvia's mentioning is reflecting on the fact that this isn't just a council plan, this is a community plan. Really, for this to work and for this to be successful, this is about the business community, it's about our community partners and different community groups and organisations, really, you know, sports clubs, anyone out there, any of the groups that we work with, taking and looking at this and seeing what they can do to make their own organisations, their own community groups more welcoming to newcomers. And I think a lot of groups do that really well, but we can always do more. And I suppose the other thing for me to reflect on, the thing that I've learned through this journey, particularly the idea for adopting this program as a mechanism for us to become a more inclusive community, was driven out of the stresses of COVID and the lack of a really well-connected network into our migrant communities. That was really difficult at that time, and we knew that was a really important thing we had to do to really support the different migrant communities that were affected when a lot of people lost their jobs. So I feel like now we've got the networks that Sylvia's really started to build in the work that we're doing here. When we do have those shocks and stresses, which we will have, we've got a much stronger platform to respond to those needs and really connect with those people. So that's my learning from that.
Thank you. Thanks for your work.
Any other questions? Before we hit the discussion phase, if there's been any discussion, do you have a mover and a seconder at all? Who would like to? Esther moves, seconder. Councillor Tucker, any discussion?
Yeah, I'll just say one thing. I picked up on Marie's point there, that it's businesses, hobbies, you know, sports clubs, and a few of them are represented in the audience today. It's about how we socialise this plan with the wider community. Because as Lisa pointed out, not many of us actually came from this district. And you know, regardless if you were engaged with this plan or not, I think we all probably go through that isolation piece when we arrive in the district. So how can we get more of that community involvement? Yeah, it touches every part of your life.
Yeah, I think the comment that I'd like to make is, having been there from the start and seen this, you know, evolve and develop for the reasons that have been quite obvious to the point of this report, and what's always, having attended a lot of the hui's, not nationally, but the local ones here in Queenstown and Wanaka recently, is the enormity of the task. When you think, you know, of the number of countries and cultures that are represented in our communities, I don't know how you've done it to try and pull that all together. I know there's still a lot more work to be done, you know, it'll continue on, but I just am in awe of the work that staff have done, because I've seen the enormity of the task to get it to this point. So thank you for that. Anybody else?
May I also just say, I think, you know, anything where you're trying to measure the social return on investment, which in a way we are, we're funding a plan, we're trying to unify disparate groups and trying to look at how you measure that impact is always going to be hard, but you can see that ripple effect taking shape, and it is going to be a ripple effect. So it's, you know, we're not going to be able to, I guess, distill this down to a sentence on what the impact's been. It's ongoing, but it's definitely, as you say, when you go to a hui, you can actually see that ripple effect and how our community groups, like the last hui held at the QEC, there was a number of community groups there and sports groups there as well. So I think, you know, it's just those tentacles that kind of spread out, and it takes time.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker.
Well done. It's cool to be, I can imagine how you're feeling at this point, be able to, you know, move through this and, you know, I sort of echo, you should be extremely proud of the work you've done. And I think my first interaction with this, I remember coming off a really huge day, having, you know, put myself into a difficult situation, being a councillor. And I was just like, came in very disheveled, and the first thing that I had was just, you know, big hugs from everybody, nice food, and I was like, okay, I get it now. It's sort of it's a vibe more than it is words on a page, but you know, I want to be living in a place that is, you know, embracing of the diversity that we have there here, you know, the melting pot that's culture. We have a lot of people who are quite protective over this area because of the passion for it. And I think, you know, this is a really important position to drive a cultural change around that acceptance and inclusivity. So, like I say, it's an enormous task that will be up to everybody, not just yourselves. But I really appreciate your leadership in this space, and congratulations on getting it to this point.
Thank you.
Any more discussion, Councillor Oils?
Chair, could I ask one comment?
Yes.
Look, I do genuinely, and I know we've got a full dance card to get through council and committee, but with these two and also our colleague Hemi, but many touch points, and I just think about the embrace and that openness that the wider community services and organisations had. And for those that have never had the ability or opportunity to attend the citizenship forum, I would strongly recommend you take that moment. It's a pretty powerful statement. And then I look through how we work with ethnic groups to ensure that they've got the end-of-life services that they require, right through to some of the work we've been doing in sport rec and how we connect children and young people into a growing community. So just like to thank team getting it ahead, because unlike bricks and mortar, it's never that easy when you actually, you know, put the sweat and tears into making a strategy come alive and connect community. So thank you for that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Right. Let's go to the vote, shall we? The agenda item has been moved by Councillor Whitehead and seconded by Councillor Tucker. 1, that the committee notes the contents of the report. 2, adopt the Queenstown Lakes District Welcoming Plan 24-27, and 3, agree the Queenstown Lakes District Welcoming Plan 24-27, which will come into effect today. All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Well done.
Don't see that very often.
No,
Not in this room.
only a community and services.
See you again.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you for your words, councillors. Rightio, agenda item number 2, application from Rippled Earth Limited for licence not to occupy scenic reserve. We've got Matt here from Parks and Brianna, and our job, 1, note the contents of the report. 2, recommend to council to approve the new licence and the associated wording, and 3, delegate signing authority to the General Manager, Community and Services. Anything you'd like to add to your report before we ask for some questions, if you're ready?
I was just going to introduce myself first. I haven't appeared before the Community and Services Committee, so my name is Matthew Judd. I'm in the Parks team, and I deal with property-related matters, leases, licenses, easements, all sort of other exciting things. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I don't want to talk too much about this report. This report, I think, is reasonably straightforward. However, the next item about Luma, I'm also covering, and I will introduce that one when the opportunity presents.
Thrown in the deep end. Brianna, you want to add anything, or just happy?
No.
We'll push on. Any questions from councillors? I see we've lost Esther, have we, or she just Sure. Any questions from councillors at all? Councillor Wong?
Thank you, through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Just wondering, has the lease agreement significantly changed from the previous lease agreements, or is it exactly the same?
No, this is licenses basically the same. It's just the previous one was a 5-year term, which has expired, and so this is just continuing that.
Yeah, and the 7.5% is that carried over as well?
Yeah.
Right. Does the operation operate 12 months of the year?
I don't believe so. I think they have the right to, but I believe it's mainly a summer activity due to weather and land conditions, that sort of thing.
All right, and that's all. I'll leave the rest of the discussion.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Guy?
Thank you, if I may, through the chair. There's been some concern around maintaining levels of service and public access to the islands, and I know that we had some condition assessment and things that require changes to the jetty and things that were there. Can you reassure the community around enabling things like concessions for commercial operations, and but how we still go about facilitating easy access to the wider user group that might come to the island?
I don't think that's really covered by this
Yeah.
matter. Like, this is a
But
kayak.
reassurance perhaps that this doesn't impact any public access by having commercial operators there.
The chair, I could probably comment that this is very low use, and does kayak around the island and then can even just pull up on the bank, so it doesn't necessarily need to even use any of the facilities where they're leaving from and coming from, in terms of they would not be using the jetty from, they'll drive down to a point that's closer to the island. So I think just in terms of the this activity is such low use that it wouldn't affect other recreational users. I think, does that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah. Just don't want there to be any misinterpretation that there's somehow an increase in commercial operation and a decrease in public access or accessibility to the same reserve.
Not at all. Familiar with the reserve in the area in terms of kayak users, it would be low use compared to other boats that may be accessing the island, which is to be accessed by or other recreational users.
Councillor Whitehead?
Thank you. I was just going to ask, obviously, it's noted that one of the disadvantages could be a low risk of disturbing flora and fauna. Just wondering if there's conditions in the consent around how they need to obviously ensure that flora and fauna isn't disturbed.
So I believe that's all taken care of through the resource consent, which they hold for this activity. So this license is kind of separate, a lot of those conditions with when the resource consent was applied with, and there was a lot of consultation done during that resource consent process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Any other questions at all, councillors? Do we have a mover and a seconder before we get into discussion? Councillor Wong moves. And a seconder, Councillor Guy. In discussion.
Yeah, yes.
Over to you, man.
No, I just want to say I've known this operator for pretty much since it started. And I guess when we look at tourism and regenerative tourism, this is probably one of the model citizens of the tourism industry. So I have no problem supporting this operator and carrying on for another 5 years with their consent. So that's all I wanted to say. And in terms of low impact, I don't know whether they use any hard infrastructure that council owns anyway. So yes, they land on beaches and that sort of thing. So and he's very conservative when it comes to safety. So which was recorded in the report there as well. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, councillor. Any other discussion? No, well, the item's been moved by councillor Wong and it's seconded by councillor Guy. 1, that we note the contents of this report. 2, recommend to council to approve a new licence and exercise minister's consent for a licence to occupy Pigeon and Pig Island scenic reserves legally described as section 2 to 3, block X, Glenorchy Survey District, to the applicant under section 56(1)(b) of the Reserves Act 1977 on the following terms and conditions, which are documented there in front of us. And 3, delegate signing authority to the General Manager, Community and Services. All those in favour? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Right, to item number 3. The Queenstown Gardens Reserve Management Plan Amendment. I don't think I have to read through all that, do I, John?
That's it. Don't do it.
It's pretty obvious in front of us. So, staff, Matt, you're still with us, Brianna, you're still with us? Nice to see your smiley faces.
Yeah, so we'll give an introduction to this one if that's okay.
Absolutely.
There's a fair bit of history here. So this is a proposed minor amendment to the Reserve Management Plan, which will allow the Luma Light Festival to operate over a 5-day period. The current Reserve Management Plan for the Queenstown Gardens was originally adopted in 2011 and only allows for a 3-day event within a calendar month. The Luma Light Festival started in 2016 and has an established reputation and has grown considerably since it first started. Council's Parks team, events team, and Luma prefer a 5-day event to ease congestion during the event and reduce wear and tear on the gardens themselves. Most recently, earlier this year, a licence for Luma was publicly notified. Friends of the Wakatipu Gardens and Reserves were the only submitter during that public notification period, and they raised a number of concerns, including that a 5-day event was not permitted under the current Reserve Management Plan. So that leads us to proposing this amendment. And as the only submitter for the licence, we've consulted heavily with Friends of the Wakatipu Gardens and Reserves on this amendment, who again raised a number of concerns. Also, they wanted to make sure that future consultation was allowed for. When this is permitted under the Reserve Management Plan, it removes the requirement for public consultation. So we've taken allowance for that, and we've included conditions within this proposed amendment for annual consultation with the Friends and also key stakeholder consultation whenever a new licence for this event is considered. So we believe these conditions provide a layer of protection for the gardens and the event, and our recommendation is to approve this minor amendment.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Guy.
Thank you. Thank you, scribbling notes busily there. It's great to hear that there's the annual consultation and with the Friends of the Gardens there. My question's around how may we in these types of agreements build on our partnerships around what we really need to hold front and centre for our strategic priorities for the gardens. And for me, what comes to mind is we've got that forest edge that's a seed source. We really need to bring our community with us on understanding and educating them around the removal of that seed source and prioritising the underplanting so that when we do have to take that forest out, everybody's reassured that there's baby trees there growing up to take their place that are not going to wild and seed everywhere. So I look at a 5-day event with Luma as being a real opportunity to get that education piece happening, to get a really clear pathway towards the underplanting happening, and to really build on that narrative, even perhaps through their exhibits and displays, to say, this is one of the key problems that faces us in the garden. How can we use these types of arrangements to forward our shared priorities in these types of partnerships? So it may not be something that's reflected currently, but it's something I'd really like to put some emphasis on.
Yeah, I think there are many opportunities working with Luma, and they're open to that and building and bringing the Friends along with us. And I mean, just sort of a side note that recently the team met with Friends of the Gardens and the Wilding Group, and we all met together in the gardens looking at that seed source. And we've now we've got some arborists at the moment working on a tree succession plan, which we'll bring back and share with them. And then I think through, obviously, we are speaking closely with Luma, and through these avenues like the licence, we can then incorporate that and look for opportunities in the future about the education piece and what that means. So
could be a really fast way to hit thousands of people in 5 days and tell them what the problem is. So,
yeah.
and we'll note that and we can take that back and talk to them about that as well.
Thank you. Any other questions at all, councillors? Do we have a mover of our motion for item number 3 before we get to discussion, if there are any? Councillor Wong, seconder. Councillor Guy, any discussion on this item? I'd just like to say that just commend the work of continuing to engage with the Friends of the Garden. They're a pretty important component, as you'll probably find out, or found out, Matt, around the gardens, but they need to be listened to. They need to be a part of the mix to whatever develops around the gardens in the future. So thank you for continuing to have that dialogue with them. Cody.
Yeah, I guess I'll also include just, you know, making space for the arts, I think is a really important aspect. My wife's from New Plymouth and they always hold the social infrastructure to high regard, so it's really nice to have some of these events sort of homegrown and see them succeed and to sort of make allowances in spaces. I just think they really hold a crucial part to the community. So.
Councillor Guy.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd also like to thank Luma. It's a local fawn event and it really, as Councillor Tucker said, embraces our arts and culture, and it literally brings light to our winter at one of the darkest and coldest times of the year. It's an event that draws our locals into Tahuna and brings all of those great benefits of us all coming together here around the lakeside as well at a time of year when we sometimes forget to get out and celebrate the things that bring us together. And I also loved seeing this year working in partnership even through the festival. There was a major film shoot happening alongside Luma this year, and it was great to see those opportunities. And so Luma's about to go global with Remarkable Place to Die, having one of their episodes filmed during the festival. So I think it'll bring us great awareness of a really special time of year. So to all those that put together their exhibits, it's fantastic to see more and more local people engage with the event. And I hope that the 5 days enables us to strike that balance between kaitaka of the resource and also manakitanga of the hospitality and enjoying each other's company through that time. So thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you. I guess I just wanted to note that there is a perception of risk associated with not consulting for a 5-year period. You know, I know that staff haven't taken this lightly and that there's been consultation obviously with Friends of the Gardens. So I definitely take that as a really strong step forward. It's also very much driven by, I think, a practicable option around ensuring that we have that 5-day period. I guess it's just a case of ensuring that the community has a sense of their aspirations as well, and taking the consultation process out of that can sometimes make the community feel that they're not heard. So we just have to, you know, be really careful about how we do it, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wong.
Thank you. Yes, I pick up those points, and that was a concern of mine around the consultation for the next 5 years. But I think the staff are doing a good job managing that. I pick up Lisa's point around a solution for native tree planting and succession planning there as well, which is something we've been talking about a lot in this community, in this committee. I also want to acknowledge Luma, who in the last few years has been operating quite a shoestring budget, and it's been a real challenge for them to make this break even. And we are losing events from the CBD, and it's great to have support for this event to bring that vibe back into the CBD community. And we've spent a fair bit of money on upgrading these streets, so we want people to use them. So I fully support Luma and may they be successful in the next 5 years.
Thank you. Councillor. Right, it has been moved, our agenda item number 3 has been moved by councillor Wong and seconded by councillor Guy. And as I mentioned, there's a fair bit of reading, I'm not going to read, but it's in front of us. And all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, staff.
Good strike rate, mate.
You'll shout, Matt. First meeting, you always shout the councillor.
Hey, Matt, could you please just open that door? It's a public forum, so you can just hook it up. Thank you.
Right, on to item number 4 we go, the draft Coronet Trail Network Plan. Brianna's still with us, and Dave as well, Dave Winterberg. The purpose of the report to present the draft Coronet Trail Network Plan for adoption. The Trail Network Plan was developed in partnership with the Coronet Forest Recreational Working Group. Up to the committee to 1, note the contents of this report, 2, adopt the draft Coronet Trail Network Plan Attachment A. Dave, Brianna, anything you'd like to add to the report?
Yes, I've just got a wee introduction here. So the draft trail network plan provides the community with a guiding document. The network plan can be staged over the next few years. We have estimated the cost of the network plan at 1.5 million. And since the writing of this report, the Tracks Trust have indicated that they will fund 50%, which is 750,000 of the maintenance of the build. They've also indicated that they will contribute to maintenance over the next 5 years. QLDC and the Coronet Forest Recreational Group can continue to investigate other funding options to implement the plan, such as Central Lakes Trust. And I just want to note that the plan provides a great recreational opportunity for a wide range of users. And this plan just ensures that the site can be established in a sustainable way. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Maybe I can just ask one on the back of the public forum speakers as to how soon the horse riders can get in there.
We actually haven't had that discussion. Yeah, we don't have a date yet, but our funding is just establishing on the site at the moment, so I can come back to you with that.
Thank you. Councillor Hawkes.
Yeah. If I may, through the chair, my questions were the same around picking up on the feedback from our equestrian users and acknowledging that they've actually lost the resource at this point in time, and also have over the growing volume use of our other trails have got diminished places, and it's right in the equestrian hub of our district, with the polo fields at the base of it and our cross-country courses down Hunter Road. What other opportunities do we have within this contact? I know there was some concern that, you know, they're being included, but perhaps not feeling as heard by all stakeholders. Are there any things we can do to ensure that those fringe users, like our pontoon community, paragliding community? I'm an old school. I was near Bob's when I how are they getting a voice in the ongoing development? Is that working group formalised?
Yeah, the working group, although it's not an actual like formal trust or incorporated society, we are still meeting and sharing and talking about the plan, and that's where paragliders and like there's opportunities here for them walking up from the base at the bottom up to some points, and we've spoken to them about the plan and with the horse riding community as well, to ensure that they have got enough loops and trails and Ks within the site. And I just think some of those comments might be to do with trails outside of this area in terms of how we can look at opportunities for horses in other areas as well. But in terms of this plan, yeah, we are going to continue to talk to the user group as well, under that one umbrella. Mm-hmm.
Can I just add, you know, through the LTB process, there was quite a number of submissions from the horse riding community for a whole range of things. And this really, this opportunity here is one of the key opportunities that we can offer them, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd perhaps like to pick up on that, but if my question is, it really does seem to be a really key opportunity, and we see so many other places where mountain bikes do become the focus. We put in little tool stations for them and pump stations for them. Perhaps here's a chance for our picnic areas to reflect some equestrian historic significance and make it a really cool place for our horses to hang out as well.
I understand what you're saying. Then.
Yeah,
Thank you.
cheers, thanks.
Right. Councillor Whitehead, Esther.
Thank you. My question's just around, you know, we've just got the wording, adopt the draft Coronet Trail Network plan, but with that comes assumptions of the costings around the 1.5 million, and obviously the tracks contribution of half of that plus the 5 years maintenance. I guess my concern is around what we are held to in the wording that we are using around adopting that plan if we have a blowout, because it is noted that it's a high level estimate of 1.5 million. So can maybe Dave or Brianna just speak to what it does note that there's some contingency. I've got very little understanding of what that looks like and where funds would come from if it blows out.
Yeah, so the plan is, as we said, like a guiding document for when we have future opportunities for investment. So we may not say there is a trail may cost more to build, or we will be staging it, and we will only be building as we have the funding available. If within the next 7 years we don't get that full 1.5, we'd only build to what we could afford. So this plan isn't a commitment to the community that council will be funding this trail. It's just a plan to guide, to say this is the number of trails and the users that we will accommodate in this site. As we said, council is funding the revegetation of the site, but for this recreational opportunity, it will have to come from volunteers and from other funding sources. And whether that takes.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, Jen?
Yeah, it does, and I think really it's just crystal ball gazing. You know, essentially, you know, I'm 100% behind this happening, but it's just the fact that I don't know if we all know what it looks like if 7 years of staged funding only produces 20% of the trail network, and somehow that becomes more of a risk or more of a, you know, an enduring problem. So I'm just trying to, I guess, weigh up what that staging could look like. Yeah, I recognise that it's really early days, so I think adopting this, the network plan, doesn't give us really any associated risks at this stage. It just opens up the opportunity.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I guess just in full transparency, I guess, you know, as councillors, you've been going through the LTP process in the last 2 or 3 months. And one of the things that's been, but one of the things that would have been on your mind quite a lot is, you know, funding to the council and rate that. So I guess what we're asking when we put this proposal forward is that we step into that uncertainty about the costing deliberately. Okay, if we don't do that with consciously, it's probably sort of opposite, or a lot of this development is probably going to take place informally. Okay. Groups will act in pirate manners and so forth, and so we'll probably get trail development anyway. So this is an opportunity for us to work deliberately with those groups, and we've already got buy-in from those groups, and they're actually working with us now. So there is some uncertainty about it, but we're asking you to step into that deliberately.
And just to add to that, you know, this funding that has been announced, which is fantastic, has only just come to us since we've written the report. So we haven't looked at staging options yet, and that's something that we will, as we continue down this path.
And just for you, Chair, Councillor Whitehead, you've come to well received. But one of the things, in the last time I was on site with these groups, I think I counted 40 odd individuals forming the parties, and I know that they've also looked at national, if not international models with some of them. And as we heard from the equestrian group, they're an affiliated national part of the wider body. So some of what we've actually been able to take to is the expertise that's been promoted through this community. It's, just because they're volunteers, we've actually been very fortunate with some of the sharpness and commitment and horsepower that's been available. The other thing that I took from that in terms of that risk element is given the couple of 100 hectares, 190 odd hectares, one of the smart pieces of work that's been done is the planning, and I think Dave touched on it, having a skeletal framework rather than just all planted out and then trying to weave in the trailhead work and all the other recreational pursuits. And then thirdly, it's like anything in life that we're finding with the astute nature and austerity of fiscal headwinds, as everyone refers to. We'll only be able to go as far as the money will take us. But as Dave rightly pointed out, the commitment of the group that we've worked with today really does represent a lot of commitment to see this basically, be achieved through the fruition over the next 5 to 7 years. And that generosity that Henny's put on the table today, I'm sure will resonate really widely with the community that's been alongside Brianna and Dave in this space. So it's a point well worth noted, as Dave's kindly reminded us of the 13-month journey through the LPP and the scars that this table had. We are certainly very acutely aware of the risk of actually over-promoting and under-delivering, and what we have with the community. And as you've heard this morning, just to finish, there's a community that's very realistic about putting the shoulder to the wheel about how we take this forward and what the ongoing support, maintenance and care of the site will look like for future generations. Basically, it's going to be an amazing infrastructure piece to the recreational community and the community at large. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ken. Esther, Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you. I just wonder if we could maybe make an amendment to point 2, adopt the draft trail network plan, which might say something about the staging, Brianna, that you mentioned, because we have the view to looking at what that staging, we don't know what that looks like yet, but if we were to safeguard the adoption with the view that we will review the staging of it. I don't know if you would be comfortable with incorporating those words into it in a way that seems fit for purpose.
Through you, Chair, we're just busily writing down something, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Wong would like to add to.
I was sort of just thinking about adding on to that a little bit with, I'd love to see the funding options that are being presented, because we've heard a lot from the various groups about their commitment, but I'd like to see it on paper so we can actually truly assess that. And how the annual maintenance figure of 150 came about. And again, because we're considering the long-term consequences of those costs, so it'd be good to see, even though it's draft, I know, it'd be good to see some of the thinking behind some of those figures. Because we've just done the long-term plan and man, we love figures.
Yeah. So just those amendments would be mainly around more about addressing the financial concerns that might arise out of this, or not so much about the proposal?
Yeah, I mean, it probably doesn't need to be in there, but it's something that I would certainly like to see.
Yeah. Could I make a suggestion that, the plan is, as I said, is that guiding document, and then, we will workshop and come back in terms of what that looks like with the staging or implementation of it. And I guess like some of the documents we hold, like whether it's a reserve management plan, which this piece of land isn't classified as a reserve, but it has guides in it about, where we're heading in the future and what that trail network looks like. So would it instead be worth having something in the resolution that council is not committing to, that, like this is that it's not actually funding?
Yeah, I assume because it's a draft though, we're not committing anything anyway.
No.
We'd have to fully adopt the plan as full council, I assume. Would that be right?
Yeah, because this is more.
I think.
Councillor Tucker.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of what people are saying, and I totally take on board the importance of not setting high expectations, but I also think it's really important to have a vision, even with a bit of vulnerability, not knowing how to deliver it, to Dave's point, because it's gonna happen anyway, whether or not, so we might as well take leadership and control to make sure the right thing happens and to go with the plan. Is it worth going for adopt the draft Coronet Trail Network Plan as a vision type of, terminology as I'm trying to help, but just more in terms of the fact of, it's a high goal. It's not an item under a fiscal plan.
So, Esther, what wording were you looking at?
Aspirational.
I think for me, I think it's not like it's clear that council isn't funding it, and that actually isn't the problem. It's more around having some transparency around the staging and funding at different interim stages, so that but I'm not entirely sure how I would word that, which is why it's tripping me up a bit, because obviously it's a guide, but I guess the concern is, like anything, that after 5 years it could be as we're seeing the vision, or it could be very different. And what do we know about that different scenario planning? So I think it's just about having a staged approach where we can see funding mechanisms during those stages.
Okay, we've just got Simon Patrick standing. Sorry.
If you'd like to comment, sorry, just I might make a suggestion. The adopt word is quite a strong word.
Yeah.
And the committee may want to consider the words agree in principle, subject to further work, so that enables more transparency around the funding information and also the staging information which is required. So in essence, you're agreeing to the plan per se, but it is subject to further work that will be required to come before council, obviously as part of the recommendations.
So,
Thank you.
just adding to that, Chair, I'm just looking under the financial implications in the report, particularly under point 41, if you've got that available, committee. And it does talk about looking at the long-term commitments. Dave's raised it now, the long-term plan 27. And just picking up on your point, Councillor Whitehead, and what Simon's outlined, we could have in principle, which fundamentally means crack on anyway. But if we were to adopt the draft, what we could look to do is ensure that we'd come back to the next committee with a framework around the staged program, which informs Councillor Whitehead and Councillor Wong's request to understand more about the fiscal and funding oversight for the next 5-year sort of outlook as we've got on the table, which includes the investment and the generosity of the trust that we've been talking today.
Yeah, and I think to the point of the group that was speaking earlier today, the commitment of paying 50%, that actually makes it more palatable.
Yes.
Which is the first time I've heard it is today. So probably need a little bit of time to digest that.
Yes, and again through you, Chair, and it's been consistent of the committee, given the experience. I'm not laughing at the LTP, but we've all been really fiscally conscious of some of these bigger initiatives. But what we also have with that commitment is a 5-year window, and as outlined in point 41, we're talking about informing the long-term plan in 3 years. So what we may want to do, if there's a level of comfort, rather than, unless you want an amendment to the resolution, we set out what we've done, but we give a commitment to report back to this committee at the next Community and Services Committee with an oversight on what is the actual staging and also the financial commitments as you've outlined between yourself and Councillor Whitehead. Would that go some way in addressing some of the points covered off?
Councillor Whitehead?
Yeah, I think the wording that John's put up on screen is appropriate if it reads something like subject to further work on staging and funding options.
It's part of that you're suggesting picking up on what Simon's outlined and potential alternatives.
Yeah, I would be much more comfortable with agree. I think adopting is too strong for me at this stage because it's visionary. Yeah, that looks good to me. I'd be happy to move that if
Yeah, but it was Diana wants to say a few words.
So just a question then in terms of operational and how we implement that. Does it just to say agree in principle, subject to further work and staging. Therefore, we really need to bring it back to you to adopt. So what agreeing in principle doesn't move us any further with, if that funding was available now to do some trail work while the crew are on site, we just have to come back and that, I'm just trying to understand the that how we would implement that resolution.
I think for me, it's around this further work on staging and funding. It's about the transparency of that. So actually, it probably would be okay now to say adopt, because we've got an understanding of what we're adopting based on the fact that it's subject to the transparency around staging and funding.
So, Councillor Whiteley, are you comfortable with what the General Manager, what Ken mentioned in terms of point number 41?
Yeah, so just to recap, we would stick with the original point 2, clarify what's Brianna's outlined, and what we then have is a commitment of, we could put point 3 that actually
Okay.
And as point 3, Councillor, so it is recorded, we could come back and report against the staging and funding. And I would just say no to, when we put this report out, we hadn't had the generosity of the trust either, so we certainly ahead of the ledger from where we started out. But it's a good point that there would be, if this committee would like to see some further analysis and reporting back about staging and funding, we would be open to doing that to make sure it's well and truly documented.
Could you delete the full of line 3 and attachment A, and then just link it up to 2? So adopt the draft Coronet Trail Network Plan attachment A.
Yeah, subject to further work on staging.
Subject to further work.
Staging funding options.
With reports on future staging and funding options.
All right, we'll just hear.
So I just wanted to understand that we're happy to do that. That's completely that's easily to do that. I guess I just wanted to I'm hearing maybe two concerns. So that's one. So is your concerns around potential costs that the council may incur in future years?
No, not necessarily. I just want it recorded, sort of what the funding options from the private sector are. And then because it obviously didn't make it into this report, but we've heard it today. I'd like to see some of those funding options.
Okay, so that clarifies that. I was hearing something slightly different, so that's good clarification. And Councillor Whiteley, so are you just trying to, in terms of ensure the delivery of the project by capturing the more financial commitments there? Is that what you're trying to?
Yeah, I'm trying to ensure that I guess things don't get too far ahead of themselves without the transparency side of it. So yeah, so ensuring that the staging and funding options are coming back to us, to me, ensures that our community can see that and understand what's happening, and also gives us a bit more of a signal into future funding as well.
So that means we can do that. We can come back. We've now got to kind of clear what's been asked of us, so we can go away and work away on that and bring it back and inform the council.
So just through you, Chair, or you go.
So instead of subject to further, would it be report back?
Report back.
Yeah.
To the Community and Services Committee.
Yeah.
So the other thing through you, Chair, is adding to Brian, is we and it won't, and staff can inform the committee, but it wouldn't stall it. We would leave this matter laying on the table to the next committee. And the reasons for that, through the generosity of what Annie and the trust have outlined today, is the first of the committee receipt, as your point, Councillor Wong. It's the first you've learned of that generosity, and we can actually bring back that staging, the financial transactions. And if that was to give yourself, Councillor Whitehead, and the committee a greater level of comfort, we would be reporting back with those details as outlined by the trust and other components for the staff needs, what the 2027 edition of the open fee potentially could look like. And then we can look at how we adopt that report in 6 weeks' time at the committee.
Right.
That would be an alternative to where we landed.
I support that suggestion. I see there's a huge amount of community support, collaboration and support physically and financially. And I'd hate to do something short term that could affect that momentum and support that's out there that we need to encourage, not put or conditions in place that could potentially stymie some of that support that we're likely to get.
Okay, so as we said, John, that's what we've got in front of us, which John's just shared with me. We just need to get a mover and a second. Just finally, Essie, you're comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that, yes. Thank you.
And you're the other one that entered into discussion. You comfortable with that?
Yep.
Do we have a mover? Councillor Whitehead, do we have a seconder? Councillor Wong, any further discussion? As we see there, 1, note the contents of this report, and 2, adopt the draft Coronet Trail Network Plan Attachment A, reporting back to the Community and Services Committee on staging and funding options. All those in favour? Opposed? 1 carried. Thank you. Thank you, staff. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming along today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, item number 5. It's a bit worn out. This is the chair's report, which is an item that we bring to our meetings every month to throw some colour over work that's being done. Hopefully that people that are tuned in, those that are present in media, understand the work that's been provided by this part of the QLDC. And as I like to do is to share it around our councillors to talk us through it. Bearing in mind, we have got a workshop to get into as well. Councillor Guy.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. The report is written, but there's a couple of good highlight points in there. Jardine Park, Councillor Wong and Councillor Ferg attended the drop-ins. I believe they were really strong. Is there anything to add to that from your point of view, Matt?
Frisbee golf. It's all about frisbee golf.
All about frisbee golf at Jardine Park. But yeah, great turnout, and the final development plan is going to come back to us to be adopted in November 24th. The parks maintenance contract renewal, a huge area of conversation for full council as well through the LTP, looking at our high profile turfs, our open spaces, tracks and trails, and we're really conscious of needs on both sides of the hill and getting that balance right between the Upper Clutha and Wanaka and Arrowtown wards. It's hopeful to see the community sentiment around bringing some of that investment forward, and we're quite excited around opportunities that we might be able to materialise earlier for Ballantyne and Ladies Mile, and been a huge amount of input as to less is more when it comes to more grass fields or artificial turf or whatever, and huge bits of work into those plans. So to be looking down into the details of our maintenance contract renewals, it's just really good to see all eyes on sports, because we have this huge cohort of young youth in our community that we just need to make the most of these resources and get them out playing sports as much as we can. Point 3, the Glenorchy Marina car park upgrade underway, improving the layout of the area there. I just would like to highlight some councillor conversation around the opportunity of educational space, I suppose, within that marina car park, and extending our compassion towards those whānau that were impacted by drownings in the Glenorchy area last summer, and the recent coroner's report, which has indicated the need to improve our public awareness around safety in waterways, and perhaps our car park area is something that we can consider that as well. So great to see upgrades underway and creating places where we can connect with our users around how to operate in these areas. Ben Lomond Trails, we had the mountain bike club here in public forum this morning, and it's fantastic to see such community activation and partnership in the biking community, and that will be reflected in our rebranding of the bike park to the Ben Lomond Trails, acknowledging the wider network within the reserve. We've heard a lot from the welcoming plan today with the community partnerships. Further congratulations to them on that. The Patatara aspiring for Central, there's going to be some basketball hoops put in there. It will be a little bit impactful on just court use and seeing how quickly this facility has really gained a foothold of utilisation in the community. We appreciate keeping any disruptions as short as we can, and it's great to see more amenity being added there over the hill up Clutha, and just to give that reassurance of appreciating the need and the growth in all our communities, and really trying to look for ways that we can any little bit of improvement that can be pulled off anywhere, I suppose, is in talking through with the chair and how the report was put together, was about recognising those small wins. And I know you were really passionate about those sports areas, Chair. If there's any of your own comments you'd like to add around fields or sporting facilities.
I'll wait to leave my iPad on. But no, there's great work. I just enjoy the flexibility of staff and the work that they're doing around what is a pretty tough subject, really, when it comes to sport and rec in the Wakatipu Basin and in the Upper Clutha as well. It's not going to be easily solved, but we've got some headway. It's a long-term plan. People have spoken, we've seen that, and we've got some work to do, which is good to see.
And the last topic on our chair's report this meeting is our libraries update and free fine access. We're moving into the second month of that. If you're listening in today and you haven't quite picked up on that, there's opportunities there for you to take a little longer to read your books if need be before you're required to get them back. But great to see these third round spaces of our libraries become even more accessible and user focused in our policies and ways that we address that. And probably my closing comment on that is to invite anybody listening along to our councillor drop-in session tomorrow at 11 o'clock at the Arrowtown Library, where we'll be available to chat in person. And I know in the Upper Clutha too that there's community board drop-ins and other ways to connect with your councillors on that side of the hill. But our libraries are always fantastic spaces if you do want to meet and chat with one of us outside of any other forums. Great place to say, hey, can I meet you for a yarn? So thanks to all our fantastic library team and those wonderful facilities. If you haven't been into one in a while, venture in. They're somehow very soul-fulfilling places to spend some time in, and you always walk out with more treats than you realised. So thank you to our community services teams and to our chair for letting me share thoughts on that this meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Guy. Oh, here we are. I think we're 11:23. John, is it? You make it? Just before we head out and close the meeting, thank you to Councillor Bruce. It was a little bit poorly yesterday. And, oh, sorry. I'll come back to that. Jumping ahead. We just need a resolution on this item number 5, the Chair's report. Note that the Community and Services Committee 1, note the contents of this report. And mover, Councillor Bruce, seconder, Councillor Tucker in favour.
Bye.
Again, carried. I'll just go back. Thank you, Barry, for making the effort. I know you were a bit poorly yesterday, but you got yourself over the hill this morning to be here in person. Greatly appreciate it. End of meeting. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, staff.